Thank you. Welcome to the Planning and Consultation Committee meeting for Tuesday the 14th of April. Members of the public are advised the meeting will be live streamed and recorded, and the live stream recording will be made publicly available on YouTube and Council's website. Nillumbik Shire Council respectfully acknowledges and recognises the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung as the traditional owner of the land on which Nillumbik is located. We pay tribute to all First Peoples living in the Nillumbik Shire, give respect to elders past, present and emerging, and extend our respect to all First Peoples. We acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded. We have a leave of absence this evening. Councillor McKay.
Yes, I would like to move the recommendation that the committee acting under delegation from Council accept the leave of absence request from Councillor Naomi Joyner for this evening.
Thank you. I have a second. Councillor Cope.
Please.
All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest? No, there are not. Okay, moving to the next item, the confirmation of minutes from the meeting held on the 10th of March. Do I have a mover?
Yes, thank you. I'll move that, Chair.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor McKay.
Yes, I'll move this as per the papers, so committee confirming the minutes.
Thank you. And a seconder? I have Councillor Cope. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. We now move to the substance of the meeting this evening, the planning permit application, 13-lot subdivision, works and removal of native vegetation, Officer Report number 6, and we have a number of submitters who are going to be speaking this evening. Okay, we are, and I think this may be a first for Nillumbik Shire, but we may be getting a submission from the People's Republic of China, but there are some internet connectivity issues, so we'll put him on hold, and we have in person Jason Sumner on behalf of the permit applicant Greg Zukala in the chamber. So thank you. Welcome to the Nillumbik Shire. That's your spot.
There you go. That should be. Thank you very much. I'll just grab my my notes, and just first of all, I'd just like to say good evening, Mayor and Councillors, and thank you very much for the opportunity to make the presentation today. I'm a town planner, and I've been involved in this application right from the start, and it's been quite a long and ongoing process because there's been a number of issues that have been raised throughout the process. We've worked diligently with the council and with the other government authorities to overcome all of the concerns. As you're aware, this site is positioned within neighbourhood residential zone and is covered by a design and development overlay. There's no vegetation protection overlays and there's no significant landscape overlays on the site. But the development design and development overlay specifies a minimum lot size of 1,000 square metres. So the intent of that is to try to create large blocks which can be landscaped. People build large dwellings on. So that's been the primary focus of us complying with those requirements. So this site is also accessible to all services. It has an extensive discussion, and there's been extensive discussion about how to appropriately drain the site and to ensure how the trees on the road reserve will not be impacted. So part of the subdivision has been dictated to by the existence of trees on the road reserve. So there's only really a single location we can put the vehicle access point in just to save the trees on the road reserve. So what that means is that the driveway is fixed in the location it is, and we have designed pretty standard type lots on either side of that. The southern portion of the site is affected by an easement for the power line, so we can't develop that southern portion of the land. So what we've tried to do is come up with a development that is very much in keeping with the characteristics of this residential environment. And all the other lots within this area, bar I think one or two, have already been developed. So we're pretty much one of the last cabs off the rank in regards to development. So because of that, the established character of the area is large landscape sort of lots. The design of the subdivision has tried to achieve a similar sort of design outcome what's already within the area. There's also been a considerable amount of discussions around the vegetation on the site, and it's all been dictated in the report as to what that is about. There's 8 trees on the site of high value. We are retaining 6 of those trees, and we worked with the council and the government department to achieve that. So part of what that has meant is that we've put a significant effort into ensuring that we can retain the trees. One of the high value trees to be removed is tree number 13. That is positioned in the road reserve, and as I stated before, we can't really relocate the position of the road simply because it's fixed by trying to maintain the vegetation on the road reserve. So unfortunately that tree, we looked at opportunities to try to include it in the nature strip. We just couldn't come up with the design outcome to do that. The other tree of high value which will be removed is tree 18, and this tree is positioned pretty much on the boundary of, I think it's lot 12 and 13. And the
Jason, can I just interrupt you there?
Yeah, sure.
That time's expired, but there may be some questions from councillors who...
Yes, can you tell me about that tree on
tree,
lot 12 and 13?
Yeah, tree 18? Yeah, tree 18. It's sort of right on the boundary of the 2 lots, and with the tree protection zone and the bushfire requirements, it ate into so much of the actual building envelope that it really couldn't be retained. So to actually keep that tree would have resulted in a loss pretty much of two lots simply because of where it's positioned. So the agreement was that that can be removed, but it allowed us to then redesign lot 13 to shift the building envelope across, which there were a number of high value trees there which we were able to provide more of a setback from them to retain those trees but also comply with the bushfire requirements as well. That's okay.
Were there any other questions, councillors, for Jason?
I'm all good.
Okay, thank you, Jason.
Thank you very much for your
Thank
time.
you. Okay, we have Greg Zakula on behalf of Mother Perlina Zakula. Welcome to the chamber.
Thank you.
Greg.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to speak at tonight's meeting on behalf of my mum, Pauline Zakala, who's the owner of the property. She would like me to briefly share her sentiments of her time living at 17 Butlers Road and within the Plenty community. Pauline, who is now 98 years old and now living independently in a retirement village, lived at the family home at Butlers Road with her husband Vic and their family for over 45 years, where they celebrated their 70th wedding anniversary. To Mum's local friends, it's evident that she cherishes her connection with the Plenty community, and that's reflected by her membership of the local craft group and by her participation in council-run classes such as computer and social media classes while she was in her 90s. Vic and Pauline were also long-term supporters of the Plenty CFA, which held regular training sessions there using the dam located on the property. Mum reluctantly decided to move out of her home after Vic passed away, but she still maintains her long-term connections with her friends in Plenty. This planning permit application process of almost 3 years duration has at times been frustrating for Mum. She would now very much like to see 17 Butlers Road evolved for housing and used for the benefit of people aspiring to be part of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Greg? Thank you for addressing the committee. Cheers. Okay. Yes, sorry, thank you. We're waiting for Jason Douglas and it seems as though we don't have him, so we'll move on with the meeting without Jason's submission. I know Jason has circulated councillors with his perspective on the application. So my message to Jason is that your perspective has been received by the councillors here at the Shire of Normanby. I think I have to then now call for a motion. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Perkins.
Thanks, Councillor Brooker. I'm going to move the officer recommendation almost in its entirety, but one small amendment I'm going to make to the officer recommendation, which will form the motion, is in section 3F5, and that's a change from provision of 2 native canopy trees to the provision of a minimum of 2 native canopy trees. So that motion that I'm putting is detailed on the board there. It's changing the current officer recommendation, which says provision of 2 canopy trees, to my motion, which is a provision of a minimum of 2 canopy trees.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Yes, I'm happy to second that.
Councillor McKay. Councillor Perkins, would you like to speak?
Yeah, look, first of all, I acknowledge the good and the hard work of the applicant and the officers in getting together this application. On balance, it is a strong application and worthy of support. The only slight change I'm recommending in the motion is that word change of provision of 2 native canopy trees, changing it to the potential to increase the number of canopy trees, if at all possible. Might not be possible. Certainly the officers advised that it couldn't happen on the southern blocks because of the transmission lines, but there might be an opportunity to put another canopy tree on some of the lots, if at all possible. But there were 24 objectors, and on the face of it, 24 objectors to me would indicate widespread community concern. But once we received the formal notices of objection, there were 24 identical objections. So there was one individual who had gone to the trouble of making an objection, and there were 23 others who had signed a form letter. So that's not the intent of objections. Ordinarily, I would tend to side with the community if there were 24 objections and there's widespread demonstrated opposition to a planning application. I'd certainly look very close at those objections, which I did, on this one, look very close at the single objection, but the fact that it was replicated another 23 times didn't help the objector parties, in my view. So on balance, there are grounds that this could be refused, and the officers have advised that there are grounds for refusal. If we chose to go down that line, we'll see how the vote comes out tonight. But I think on balance, as the officers have recommended, it's a fair application. On balance, it's worth supporting. The applicant has worked very, very hard with officers. Officers believe they've got the best outcome in consultation with the applicant. I was good. You don't often hear from the words we heard from tonight from Paulina, and it is good to hear about her vision for the future of the property, which is to attract more people into the area, which ultimately has to happen. So, councillors, I think hopefully I get support for which is effectively the officer recommendation, with a slight improvement that might in some way ameliorate the concerns of the single objector and 24 support objectors. Thank you.
Okay, any other councillors wish to speak? No? Okay, Councillor McKay.
Sorry, just thank you so much for coming in and for your story and for your working so hard with our council on this. I'm sorry it's taken so long. We're trying to be very careful about the community and looking after everyone, and we want to look after you too. So thanks for coming in tonight. Thank you.
I'll take my opportunity as a chair to speak as well. I'm the local ward councillor that this application is located in. I do agree that Councillor Perkins has made a change to the officer recommendation that improves it by saying a minimum of 2, allowing for the possibility of more if it's within the realms of possible, but not sufficient enough for me to support the application. I mean, our planning system works that officers advise and councillors decide, which is the purpose of our meeting this evening, with the caveat that our decisions are reviewable at VCAT. The report that is before us this evening includes advice from an internal referral process at Nillumbik, and for strategic planning it states, raised concerns around lookout and the amount or level of vegetation loss, and if the proposal is consistent with prevailing neighbourhood character. Well, I think when you read a planning report and you see the words raised concerns, that kind of is couched in the most friendly ways possible, I would say that. It certainly raised concerns for me as the ward councillor to investigate what really were the concerns of strategic planning. And it was to the things that we would expect it to be, the level of tree removal, the level of tree retention for that matter, and those types of things. That is to highlight that you can really emphasise that you can have a professional difference of opinion regarding a planning application, and I have to take on perspectives of those planning professionals and my own before coming to a decision. Similarly, the consulting arborist in the report to the public that we've got this evening, it references initial concerns. Again, when you read a planning report and you see something that says it raises concerns, that is something then to be investigated further. And that is what I did. The officer response necessarily has to be cognizant of, what is defendable at VCAT, and I would say an assessment on the prospects of the decisions being upheld at VCAT. The other departments of council are less constrained by those parameters, as are councillors, and they're looking at the application more broadly and in the context of acceptability, not according necessarily to a statutory code, but to the wider impacts of vegetation retention, room for future canopy trees, and alignment with Nillumbik and state policies on tree canopy protection, biodiversity protection, and prevailing neighbourhood character. I think that's my argument and my time up, so I will call for a vote. All those
point of order?
Yeah.
A right of reply.
Apologies. The mover has a right of reply.
Thank you, Chair. Most gracious. Look, just as right of reply, I'll just make the point that had I been in Councillor Brooker's shoes on the face of 24 objections, I might have been inclined to call that this application in myself. But the unusual thing that happened this time is not one member of the community, aside from Jason Douglas, contacted Councillor Brooker or any other councillor about their objections. So, in essence, we had one objection from one individual who had gone around and got basically a signed petition together. And, we all know how difficult it is to not sign a petition when somebody knocks on your door. Sometimes you just really want them to leave. So here's a signature and see you later. I sympathise with Councillor Brooker's position, but I think, on balance, councillors, we do have to look at the officer's recommendation. We've had internal discussion with officers in terms of how processes could be improved in future, and one of those for me would be, highlighting to councillors early that we've got one objection with 23 duplicate objections, and we saw for ourselves there was no real community outrage to this application because no one contacted council. We had one single email from the chief objector in Jason Douglas, who's currently in China. You know, I congratulate him on the time and effort that he's put in, but it's not enough, and Councillor Booker's arguments aren't persuasive enough, but I understand his position as a ward councillor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perkins. All those in favour of the motion, raise your hands. Okay, thank you. All those against? That's carried. 5 votes to 1. Thank you. I'll move on to other parts of the meeting. Item number 7, supplementary and urgent business. There is none. Item number 8, confidential reports. There are none. And so I would close the meeting at 7:21 this evening. Thank you for attending.